Hello viewers. The following stories are inspired by real events. However, the characters' names have been changed to protect privacy. In the summer of 2008, in a small, peaceful town on the shores of Lake Lanier, Georgia, locals still whisper to each other about creepy stories surrounding the deep blue water. They call it Lake Serenity. But the serenity that the name evokes is in complete contrast to the rumors of missing souls and strange things that have happened here. Liam, a 17-year-old boy who grew up in this town, has heard countless stories about Lake Serenity since he was a child. It is said that on full moon nights, you can hear the wailing echoing from the lake, the mournful calls of those who have forever lain at the bottom of the cold water. Together with his two best friends Jessica and Noah, Liam often gathers at the lakeside cafe, where ghost stories are told over and over again, becoming more and more thrilling and terrifying. I heard that on foggy nights, some people even see shadowy figures lurking on the lake's surface. Jessica whispers, her eyes shining with fear but also curiosity. Noah, a guy who looks strong but is actually very timid, timidly says, "Come on Jess. Stop scaring me. Those stories are just made up." Liam, who always appears brave and likes to explore mysteries, smirks, "I'm not sure. Noah, too many people have mysteriously disappeared in this lake. There must be something behind it." Lake Serenity used to be a popular tourist destination known for its wild natural beauty. But over time, drowning accidents and unexplained disappearances have caused the locals to gradually distance themselves from this place. They believe that the lake is cursed, and those who dare to go near it will suffer misfortune. However, there are still some curious and brave young people like Liam and his friends who occasionally come to the lake at night, hoping to witness the supernatural phenomena that people say. One hot summer evening, Liam invited Jessica and Noah to come to Lake Serenity. "I heard the moon is very bright tonight," Liam said excitedly. "This is the best chance for us to see if those stories are true." Jessica was hesitant at first, but her curiosity overcame her fear. Noah protested, but was eventually persuaded by his two friends. As night fell, the three of them walked to Serenity Lake together. The path leading to the lake was dark and deserted, with only the chirping of insects and the rustling of leaves under their feet. As they approached the lake, a cold wind suddenly blew by, causing all three of them to shiver. The lake was pitch black under the dim moonlight, creating a scene that was both mysterious and terrifying. I don't like the feeling here at all," Noah whispered, his voice trembling. Liam reassured his friend, "Don't worry, we'll only be here for a while." They sat down on a large rock by the lake's edge, silently observing the water. The space was eerily quiet, only the sound of waves gently lapping against the shore. Suddenly, from the middle of the lake, a strange noise rang out, sounding like someone was struggling violently underwater. All three of them were startled, straining their eyes to look towards the source of the sound. They saw a few swirls on the lake's surface, as if someone had just been pulled under. Then the water returned to its original calm state. What just happened?" Jessica asked, her face pale. Liam didn't know how to answer. He felt an indescribable unease rising in his heart. They sat in silence for a while, trying to calm down, but then, a mournful cry echoed from the middle of the lake, the sound tearing apart the quiet night. The cry sounded like that of a woman, full of pain and despair. Noah couldn't bear it any longer. He stood up abruptly, stammering, We have to go. I don't want to be here anymore." Jessica agreed with Noah. The three of them quickly stood up and ran away from the lake shore. leaving behind the eerie sounds and the mysterious black water. On the way back, no one spoke a word to each other. All three felt an indescribable fear following them. They knew that the stories about Serenity Lake were not just baseless rumors. They had seen and heard strange things there. Since that night, Serenity Lake had become a terrifying obsession in the minds of Liam, Jessica and Noah, and they never dared to go near that haunted lake again. That night, Liam, Jessica and Noah could not sleep well. The image of the black lake under the moonlight, the strange swirls of water and the mournful cries haunted their minds. Every time they closed their eyes, they heard creepy sounds coming from the water, causing them to wake up in a panic. Liam lay restless on the bed, cold sweat pouring down his body. He tried to shake off the scary images in his head, but to no avail. The woman's cries echoed in the silence of the room, like a never-ending lament. He felt a strange coldness envelop him, even though the summer night was still hot. Jessica was no better. She huddled in her blanket, hugging her favorite teddy bear tightly as if it could protect her from the horrors she had witnessed. Every time there was a small noise in the night, her heart would jump, as if the spirits of Serenity Lake had come to her house. She kept turning on the night light, looking around the dark room with fear. The darkness seemed to contain something dark and scary, ready to swallow her up at any moment. Noah was even worse. He stayed up almost all night, not daring to close his eyes for even a second. He sat with his back against the wall, his arms hugging his knees, his mouth muttering prayers. The cries from the lake kept ringing in his ears, making him feel like someone was whispering vicious curses into his mind. He felt a cold, terrifying presence hovering over him, even though he was in the safety of his own room. The next morning, the three of them met at their usual lakeside cafe. Everyone looked tired and haggard. They sat in silence for a while, no one saying anything, as if they were still trying not to talk about what had happened the night before. Finally, Liam broke the silence. I don't think it was just my imagination," he said, his voice still shaking. "I really heard crying." Jessica nodded in agreement. "Me too. And the swirls. It looked like someone was being pulled down." Noah, still very scared, had to admit, "Yeah, I heard it too. The crying sounded so miserable." They recounted what they had experienced that night together, trying to find a reasonable explanation. But the more they talked, the more they felt that what they had witnessed was beyond all common sense. Maybe the stories about this lake are true," Liam said, his expression becoming serious. "Maybe there really are missing souls down there." Jessica shivered. "So, then what should we do now?" Noah, who was still very scared, hurriedly said, "We have to stay away from that lake. I don't want to go near it again." Liam and Jessica also agreed with Noah. They both felt that Serenity Lake was not a safe place, and they shouldn't risk going near it again. However, Liam still had a bit of curiosity in his heart. He wanted to find out what really happened at that lake, and why so many people mysteriously disappeared. A few days later, Liam started searching the internet for information about the history of Lake Lanier and the disappearances that had occurred there. He found many articles and forums discussing strange phenomena related to this lake. He read stories about an old town, called Oscarville, that was flooded when the Lanier Dam was built in the 1950s. Hundreds of people lost their homes and land, and some even died during the construction process. It is rumored that the souls of the people of Oscarville still wander at the bottom of the lake, and that they are the cause of the mysterious accidents and disappearances. Liam felt a chill as he read the information. It occurred to him that the cries they had heard could have been the wailing of those submerged souls. He also understood that the chill they felt by the shore of the lake could have been the chill of the afterlife. He decided to dig deeper into the history of Lake Serenity and the ghost stories associated with it. He felt that he needed to know the truth, no matter how terrifying it was. He could never forget what had happened that night, and he knew that Lake Serenity would forever be a mystery that haunted him and his friends. Determined to find out the truth about Lake Serenity, Liam spent the next several days at the local library. He rummaged through old newspapers, looking for any information regarding disappearances or unusual events that had occurred at the lake. In a yellowed local newspaper from the 1950s, Liam found a series of articles detailing the construction of the Lanier Dam and the flooding of Oscarville. The articles told of the lives of the townspeople, the hardships they faced as they were forced to leave their homes and land, and the bitter controversy surrounding the dam project. One detail that particularly caught Liam's attention was an article about a tragic accident that occurred just before the lake was filled. A car full of workers fell into a deep, flooded hole, and none of them survived. It was said that the bodies of some of the workers were never found. Liam felt a chill run down his spine as he read these lines. He suddenly remembered the swirling water they had seen on the lake that night. Could these be the traces of the souls of those unfortunate workers? He continued to search and read many other stories about drowning accidents and mysterious disappearances in Lake Lanier after it was formed. Some people reported seeing shadowy figures under the water, or hearing cries for help coming from the middle of the lake late at night. Liam decided to meet with the elders in the town, who might remember the history of Oscarville and the ghost stories related to Serenity Lake. He went to the house of Mrs. Evelyn, an 80-year-old woman who was known to be a keeper of memories of the old town. Evelyn was very willing to share her stories with Liam. She told of the peaceful life in Oscarville before the town flooded, of the friendly neighbors and the beautiful memories. But when it came to Lake Lanier, her voice became sad. "That lake is not peaceful," she said, her voice shaking. "It's taken too many people. Their souls are still down there, suffering and unable to move on." Evelyn tells Liam a particularly haunting story. It's the story of a young girl named Clara, who mysteriously disappeared the night before the town was flooded. Clara is said to have gone out into the middle of the lake to watch the moon, and was never seen again. People searched everywhere but found no trace of Clara. Some believe she drowned, but others believe she was taken by some evil force in the lake. Since then, people say that on full moon nights, you can hear Clara's sad singing coming from the lake. Evelyn says, her eyes sad. She's still looking for her lover, who was also lost in an earlier accident. Liam feels a deep connection with Clara and the lost souls of Lake Serenity. He begins to believe that their pain and loss are responsible for the supernatural phenomena he and his friends have experienced. He decides to find out more about Clara's story. He wants to know if there is a way to help her and the other souls find peace. Liam continues to search through old records and interview other elderly people in the town. He gathers more information about the lives of Clara and her lover, a young man named Samuel. They had a beautiful love, but were separated by a tragic accident. According to what Liam learns, Samuel drowned in the lake a few months before Oscarville was flooded. Clara was heartbroken and depressed after her lover's death. Perhaps that is why she came to the lake that fateful night. Liam thought a lot about Clara and Samuel's story. He felt a strange connection between him and the spirits of Serenity Lake. He no longer felt fear, but instead a strong urge to help them. Liam told Jessica and Noah everything he had learned. At first, they were a bit skeptical. But after Liam detailed the history of Oscarville and Clara's story, they also began to believe that something special was happening at Serenity Lake. "So what do we do now?" Jessica asked, her face worried. "Can we help them?" Liam nodded. "I think so. I believe Clara's spirit is still wandering there, searching for Samuel. Maybe if we can help them reunite, she and the other spirits will find peace." The three friends decided to work together to find a way to help the souls in Serenity Lake. They didn't know where to start, but they believed that if they tried together, they would find a solution. They felt a heavy responsibility towards the lost souls, and they were determined to bring peace to the souls trapped at the bottom of the cold lake. A few days later, Liam, Jessica and Noah decided to return to Serenity Lake. This time, they came during the day, but the gloomy and cold air still covered the lake. The sunlight could not dispel the quiet and eerie atmosphere of this place. They brought with them a bouquet of wildflowers that Jessica had picked along the road. According to what Liam learned, Clara loved wildflowers. They hoped that this was a way to show respect to the unfortunate girl's soul. They stood by the lake, looking at the calm water. No birds chirping, no wind blowing, just a suffocating silence. "What should we do now?" Noah whispered, his voice still a little scared. Liam thought for a moment and then said, "I think we should throw the flowers in the lake, where we heard the crying the other night. Maybe that's where Clara usually appears." They walked together to the spot where they saw the whirlpool the other night. Liam gently dropped the bouquet into the water. The colorful wildflowers floated on the black lake, creating a scene that was both beautiful and sad. They stood in silence for a while, waiting for some sign, but the lake remained calm. Nothing happened. "Maybe we should say something," Jessica suggested. "Maybe Clara wants to hear us." Liam took a deep breath and said, "Clara, we know your story. We know you're looking for Samuel. We want to help you find peace." Liam's voice echoed across the still lake, but there was no response. They sat down on the shore, waiting and watching. Time passed slowly, but nothing out of the ordinary happened. They began to feel frustrated. Perhaps they had been wrong to think they could help the spirits in this place. Suddenly, a thick fog began to spread across the lake, covering everything in a blanket of white. The fog was so thick, they could see nothing but the damp vapors surrounding them. "What's going on?" Noah asked in panic. Liam and Jessica also felt nervous. They had never seen such dense fog here before. In the dense fog, they began to hear strange sounds. A soft whispering sound drifted in their ears, as if someone was saying something they couldn't understand. Then they heard the sound of oars splashing water, as if a boat was gliding across the lake. But they couldn't see any boats in the dense fog. "Is anyone there?" Liam called out, his voice trembling slightly. There was no answer, only the whispering and the sound of oars splashing water becoming clearer and clearer. Suddenly, a blurry image appeared from within the fog. It was the image of a small boat, on which sat a young girl, her long black hair falling down to cover her face. The girl was holding an oar, gently splashing the water. Liam, Jessica and Noah looked at the scene before them in amazement. They realized that it was Clara, the girl who had disappeared years ago. Clara did not look at them. She just silently rowed the boat through the fog. But as the boat passed near where they were standing, they heard a sad voice echoing in the air. It was a melodious melody, but it contained a deep sadness. As Clara's boat gradually disappeared into the fog, they heard another voice, this time a man's voice. The voice sounded very warm and loving. "Clara, my love." From within the fog, a blurry figure of a man appeared, standing on another boat, heading towards Clara's boat. Liam, Jessica and Noah looked at the scene before them in amazement. They believed that it was Clara's lost lover, Samuel. The two blurry boats gradually approached each other in the fog. They saw the silhouettes of Clara and Samuel embracing each other, as if after so many years apart, they had finally found each other. As the two boats merged and disappeared into the mist, the sad singing gradually died down. The mist slowly cleared, revealing the lake as calm as before. Liam, Jessica and Noah stood there, quietly looking at the lake. They felt an unusual peace enveloping the place. They believed that Clara and Samuel had finally found reunion and peace in the afterlife. After witnessing the strange scene on the lake, Liam, Jessica and Noah returned home with mixed feelings. They felt relieved that they had perhaps helped Clara and Samuel find peace. But at the same time, they were shocked and a little scared by what they had just experienced. That night, Liam lay in bed, unable to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, the blurry image of Clara and Samuel's boat appeared again. He wondered if they were really reunited or if it was just an illusion created by his mind. He also couldn't forget Clara's sad singing and Samuel's warm voice. Those sounds kept ringing in his ears, creating a feeling that was both sad and a little creepy. Jessica also had a restless night. She kept having nightmares about the dark lake and the shadowy figures in the mist. She woke up many times during the night, her heart pounding with fear. The next morning, Jessica called Liam, her voice still shaking. I couldn't sleep," she said. "I kept dreaming about that lake." Liam comforted his friend, "Me too. But I think it's going to be okay. We helped them." Noah seemed to be the hardest hit. He became quieter and more startled. He seemed extremely worried whenever there was a strange noise. One afternoon, while the three of them were sitting at a lakeside cafe, Noah suddenly stood up, his face pale. "Did you hear that?" he asked, his voice shaking. Liam and Jessica listened, but heard nothing. "What did you hear?" Liam asked. "Crying. I heard crying again," Noah whispered, his eyes staring out at the lake in horror. Liam and Jessica tried to reassure Noah, telling him that he must have imagined it, but they also felt a little uneasy in their hearts. In the following days, Liam, Jessica and Noah's lives gradually returned to normal. They still went to school, still hung out with friends, but deep down, they could not forget what had happened at Serenity Lake. However, the strange phenomena related to the lake did not seem to end. Local people began to tell stories about the unusual things they had witnessed. Some people who fished at night said they had seen strange lights sparkling under the water. Others said they had heard sad singing voices coming from the lake on moonlit nights. One evening, while Liam was driving alone on the road by the lake, he suddenly saw a woman in a white dress standing on the side of the road, right where they had seen Clara the night before. Liam was startled and stepped on the brakes to stop the car. He took a closer look, but the woman's figure had disappeared. He felt a chill run down his spine. He tried to convince himself that it was just an illusion, but he couldn't shake the uneasiness that was rising in his heart. A few days later, Jessica called Liam in a panic. "Liam, can you believe it? I just saw a man standing in the middle of my yard. He was wearing old clothes and looked really sad." Liam felt a shiver run down his spine. He knew that it was probably one of the spirits that had flooded Serenity Lake. "Are you sure?" Liam asked. "I'm sure," Jessica said. "He stood there looking at my house for a while and then disappeared." Noah also began to experience strange things. He said that every night he heard footsteps in his room, even though he was alone. Sometimes, he even felt someone touching him lightly while he slept. All three of his friends felt worried. They didn't know if helping Clara and Samuel would attract the attention of the other spirits in Serenity Lake. One night, Liam decided to return to Serenity Lake alone. He wanted to find out if the spirits there were still imprisoned. He brought a candle and some wildflowers. When he reached the shore of the lake, he lit the candle and dropped the flowers into the water. He sat silently for a while, listening to every sound. Suddenly, a hoarse, sorrowful voice rang out from the middle of the lake. "Why? Why did you disturb our sleep?" Liam stood up in horror, looking towards the source of the sound. He knew that the spirits in Serenity Lake had not yet found peace. And perhaps their help was not enough. He felt a deep fear wash over him, and he knew that he had awakened something very dark in this place. That night, Liam returned to Serenity Lake alone, filled with fear but also with determination. He knew that he needed to understand what was happening in this place. Not only for himself and his friends, but also for the souls trapped at the bottom of the lake. When he reached the lake, the cold air enveloped him. Even though the summer night was still warm, the lake was as black as ink, reflecting the faint moonlight, creating an eerie scene. Liam lit a candle and placed it on the shore. The wildflowers he had brought were also gently dropped into the water. He sat down on a large rock, closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "I'm here to help," he said, his voice echoing in the quiet night. "Please tell me what you want." As soon as Liam finished speaking, the lake began to shake violently. Huge waves suddenly rose, crashing against the rocks. A strong wind blew, blowing the surrounding branches. Liam opened his eyes, looking at the scene before him in horror. From the middle of the lake, dark shadows began to rise. They were the images of men, women and children, their faces distorted with pain and anger. They reached out their hands towards Liam, as if to drag him down to the bottom of the deep lake. "You don't belong here. Leave," a hoarse voice rang out. The sound seemed to tear through the night. Liam felt an extreme fear engulf him. He had never witnessed anything as terrifying as this before. He wanted to run away, but his feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. "We just want to help," Liam managed to say, his voice trembling. "We know you've suffered a lot." The shadows on the lake seemed not to hear him. They continued to move towards the shore, moans and wails echoing throughout the space. Suddenly, Liam saw among the shadows the image of a young girl with long black hair, her face pale and her eyes filled with sadness. He recognized it as Clara. Clara looked at Liam with pleading eyes. "Please, help us," she whispered, her voice as weak as a breeze. Soon, a tall, angry-looking man appeared beside Clara. "Shut up, Clara. They will never understand our pain," he growled. Liam realized that this angry man was the source of the hatred and darkness in Serenity Lake. Perhaps he was one of the people who died in the dam construction accident, and his anger had trapped the other souls in this place. "We want to help you find peace," Liam said, trying to keep his voice from shaking. "We know you've lost everything, but hatred will do no good." The angry man sneered. "Peace? We will never have peace. You took away our homes, our families, and our lives. You will pay." He raised his hand, and the other shadows on the lake also began to rush towards Liam. He felt an invisible force pulling him towards the cold water. Liam closed his eyes, preparing for the worst, but at that moment, he heard Jessica and Noah calling his name. He opened his eyes and saw Jessica and Noah standing at the edge of the lake. their faces filled with worry. They had followed him here. "Liam, run!" Jessica shouted. Noah threw Liam a rope. "Hurry up, I'll pull you." Liam grabbed the rope and tried to retreat. But the force from under the lake was too great. He felt himself being pulled deeper and deeper into the cold water. Finally, with the help of Jessica and Noah, Liam managed to escape the lake's pull. Together, they ran away from the shore, leaving behind the angry roars and the shadowy figures that were slowly disappearing into the night. From that night on, Liam, Jessica, and Noah never dared to return to Serenity Lake again. They knew that it was not just an ordinary lake, but a place where tormented and vengeful souls were imprisoned. The local people continued to tell the scary stories about Serenity Lake, and no one dared to go near that haunted lake anymore, because they knew that it contained a dark secret and an unforgettable horror.